Okay, great. All right. Well, welcome in everybody. This is part of our educational workshops through rehab therapies through the University of Vermont Medical Center and Health Network up here in Burlington, Vermont. And if you don't know me, I'm Rebecca Reynolds. I'm the lead exercise trainer for um, the community exercise programs for rehab therapies. And I work at the O'Brien Community Center in Winooski. And it's an aquatic therapy center. It's a physical therapy center. We also host oncology rehab and pulmonary rehab. And one of our physical therapists, Rebecca Merriman, is here today for Lyme disease and prevention. And so we thought it was kind of a good time right now to bring this topic up as it's pretty prevalent in Vermont. Um, I know I let my dog out now. We have some woods, and she's coming back with like 2 to 3 ticks every time she goes into the woods. And then she sleeps in my bed, and I've gotten bit already this year and twice last year. So it's definitely happening around us more and more. And so I just think that's a great topic to just be aware of and kind of its implications and impact. And so I'm really happy to welcome Becca here with us, and we'll kind of let her introduce and continue. And I'm going to monitor the chat. If there's anything anyone has questions about, feel free to put stuff in there, and then we can kind of check in too if you have questions along the way. That would be great. All right, thanks.
Okay. So I am attempting to share my screen. Can you see that, Rebecca?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's see if I can get it to presentation mode.
Looks good.
Okay, so I am Becca. I am a physical therapist at the O'Brien Community Center. I have been practicing since 2020, and some of my previous work was specifically with folks who have Lyme disease and other tick-borne illnesses. So I've been to a few different conferences, and I feel pretty strongly about prevention and appropriate treatment as well. And as Rebecca said, it's very prevalent in Vermont. So I was hoping to share some information to reduce the cases that we're seeing here. We will mostly be talking about Lyme, but I'll talk a little bit about some of those other bacteria that live within the ticks as well. So just a little background. You don't have to read all of this, but Lyme disease is caused by an infection called Borrelia burgdorferi. So that bacteria is living within the tick, and then when the tick bites you, it actually regurgitates some of its saliva with that bacteria into your body, and that bacteria can then cultivate your body, and that's where the disease comes from. We have about 50% of the ticks here are carrying Lyme disease. So if you get bit, it's a decent chance that they have Lyme. You're not 100% guaranteed to get it just because you were bit, but the chances are higher here than some other places. We'll talk about some ways that you can reduce your risk of getting it even if you're bitten, and ideally ways to avoid getting bitten. Once you do have Lyme or some other tick-borne illnesses, it can affect all sorts of symptoms. I think everyone knows about the bullseye rash and thinks about that first, but if you suddenly have flu-like symptoms, that can be a sign. If you have sudden increase in cardiac symptoms, you're having arrhythmias or chest pain, and there's no explanation for it, it can be Lyme disease. I've seen folks who end up wheelchair bound because their nervous system was attacked. So there are really a lot of components to it. And then the one that I think is most neglected is mental health. So if all of a sudden you've got like uncontrollable anxiety or thoughts that you've never had before, that can actually be a sign of Lyme disease. So something to keep in mind, as it's not really the forefront of most providers' minds when they see that presentation. So you can catch Lyme quickly, and then it's acute Lyme. If you have your acute Lyme treated and it does not go away, it persists, it's called chronic Lyme. I guess that's true, whether you have it treated or not. If it persists beyond a certain amount of time, it becomes chronic Lyme. So we'll talk about both of those. I wanted to mention also that blood testing is not always accurate. So sometimes the doctors, some providers will say, well, I did the blood test and you don't have it, so we're not going to go down that path anymore. But according to the CDC, at least previously, um, the first few weeks of infection, when the rash is present, when most people are aware that they've been bitten by a tick, you're actually not going to see a positive test because of the way the bacteria works, the amount of time it takes to cultivate in the body and all of that. Usually once you're into that chronic Lyme time frame, then you will have more chance of a test being positive. There are also several different tests that are more or less accurate depending on which one you do. So if you have a strong suspicion that you have Lyme disease or another tick-borne illness, and your doctor is dismissing it because of one blood test, it's worth pursuing a little more. Other ways that you'll know, so if the blood test is not accurate, how do you know that you have Lyme disease? Some of these symptoms can be an indicator, and if you have all of the symptoms, it's a very strong indicator. So in that early phase, acute, you know you had a tick on you, or you're suddenly feeling flu-like, you're going to feel things like excessive fatigue, you're tired more than usual, really can't, coffee is not helping, I can't get through that fatigue, chills and fever like a flu, muscle and joint pain. Pretty unique symptom of Lyme disease is that you have muscle and joint pain, but it travels. So one day your shoulder's hurting, and then the next day your other knee is hurting, and then the next day your back is kind of hurting, but it's this strong, persistent pain. It's just not consistent in location. Headaches, swollen lymph nodes. So most people can feel their lymph nodes in their neck and know whether those are swollen. You also have lymph nodes under your armpits, in your groin, behind your knees. So if you're feeling a lot of swelling in those areas, or feel really tight in those areas, that can be an indicator as well. And then the bullseye rash that most people are familiar with. That bullseye rash does not actually come on with all cases. So, and as I'll show you on the next slide, is not as obvious as it seems. Once you have the Lyme bacteria in your body for a little bit longer, the symptoms change. The bacteria can affect different systems. So if you're feeling numbness or pain in your arms or your legs, Bell's palsy, where you're getting like drooping on one side of the face, high fever, stiff neck, joint pain and swelling, that's the same in acute as well. You guys can read these, but these are symptoms that are often associated with other diseases as well. So if those have been ruled out and you're still having persistent symptoms, it's worth exploring into Lyme disease. Looking at the rash, this picture on the left, the bullseye rash, is what most people think about if they're familiar with the Lyme disease rash, but it can actually present as all of these other 8 images on the right as well. So you might say, oh, well, I had a rash, but it wasn't a bullseye, so it wasn't Lyme disease. That's not always the case. And almost 40% of Vermonters that have confirmed Lyme disease never saw a bullseye rash. So either they didn't have it, or they got bit on their back and they couldn't see it, or it was too pale because of their skin color. There are lots of different reasons. I'm seeing something in the chat. Rebecca, is that?
Yeah, nope, nothing yet, really. There is, but not.
Okay, great.
It said
Nothing
great speaker,
responsive.
so there's some confidence for you.
Oh, great. Some of the co-infections. So we've got Lyme disease that most of us are familiar with, but there are also other bacteria that live in these, in the ticks and various other animals that carry it. Anaplasmosis, Babesia, and Bartonella are all very common in Vermont. Oftentimes, folks who have a Lyme disease diagnosis also have these other bacteria. And so treatment can become more complicated because of that. You could fully rid yourself of the Lyme disease with that standard treatment of doxy, but then these symptoms are persisting, and it's because there's a secondary bacteria as well. These are the most common symptoms with those other ones. And then Powassan and ehrlichiosis are also common tick-borne illnesses, but not necessarily in Vermont. So prevention is the best medicine. The best way to treat Lyme is to not get it. So here are some ways that you can avoid being bitten by a tick. Um, Wearing clothing treated with permethrin. So permethrin is a bug repellent, but it's not safe for your skin. So put it on your clothing. You need to refresh it. It depends on the exact product, but you can wash your clothes a few times and it's still effective, but then you have to put it back on. You do not put it on your skin. You can use permethrin. I don't think I wrote this one down, but I was just talking about this with one of my coworkers. You can also put a toilet paper tube stuffed with cotton balls and spray it with permethrin and put it around areas that are more prone to ticks, like around your garden or around the edge of your property where you don't mow. And that reduces the likelihood of ticks being in the space that you're in. That's kind of like I don't want to say old wives' tale, but people kind of know about that one. And my coworker was not sure whether it was accurate or not. So I wanted to share that it is a really good way to avoid those ticks in your space and in your garden. Using regular tick repellent on your skin. The chemical ones are more effective, the DEET, but natural ones work as well. Wearing light clothing and doing your tick checks because ticks are dark. Talk about a couple different types of ticks as well. But usually they're much easier to see on lighter clothing or lighter skin. Tucking your pants in so that they typically, if you're an adult, you're higher up than where they live, so they'll attach to your legs and then crawl to wherever they're gonna bite you. So tucking your pants in to your socks can prevent them from having access to that skin. Children should always be checked on the behind their ears and their hairline because they are at that height if they're little children. Wearing hats and putting your hair back so that nothing can grab on. Sometimes if you're going through the woods, they can be on trees and grab on there. And then same thing if you're hiking, staying in the center so that you're just not brushing up against them. They do this weird thing where they like have their little legs and they kind of hang off of things and reach out until something passes, and whether it's a deer or another animal or a human. And so if you just stay away from that brush, then they can't grab you. um, These are pretty similar. Check your gear before you get into the vehicle because you might then deposit a tick on your vehicle, and then you go home and you do your tick check and you've taken your shower and you've put your clothes in the dryer and everything's good, and then you get back in your car and it bites you. So trying not to let that tick in the first place. And then, like I just said, the dryer, put it on high heat for 10 minutes, it will kill them. The washer does not do that. So making sure that you get them in the dryer, and then shower, wash yourself well before they attach so that they can fall off and go down the drain. As Rebecca mentioned, oftentimes they do come in with dogs, with cats. So get a good tick repellent collar, or they've got the little drops and things too. And also tick check your pets, especially if they've been running in the grass or somewhere that you know has a high level of ticks, which is everywhere in Vermont. Checking them, and especially those with dark hair, getting in there so that you can find them and they don't just get buried and lost in there. Dogs can also get Lyme disease, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but animals can also get Lyme disease, and they do have a vaccine. So if your dog does not have a vaccine, it's worth doing as well. And then small mammal and bird populations, because they eat ticks and they carry ticks on their bodies and can transmit that disease.
We do have
And
a
then,
question if it's okay time.
yeah,
Oh, does the bullseye rash happen only where the tick bites, or can the rash show up on the arms or legs separate for where the tick could have been?
that's a good question. I'm pretty sure it's only where the tick bites.
Mhm. And then someone said, I've heard that permethrin is linked to blood cancers. Do you know anything
I don't
towards
know anything
that?
about that.
Okay. Okay.
I do know that you shouldn't put it on your skin.
Okay.
So that might be enough, but I don't know beyond that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And then just that yellow box says that ticks can be teeny tiny, as tiny as the period at the end of a sentence, as tiny as a poppy seed. So looking carefully. Some people actually use clothing rollers, like lint rollers, to roll their dogs or roll their clothes after they come in, and then that gets any ticks that are on the surface that you're not seeing very well. So you did all your prevention, you did everything right, but a tick got on you anyway. What do you do now? If it's still on you, you can carefully remove it using tweezers. You're going to get as close to the skin as possible. If you squeeze from the body of the tick, you're more likely to squish that Lyme disease and that saliva back into your body. So trying to get as close to your skin, as close to those mouth parts as you can, and pulling it up. Sometimes the mouth parts do stay in your skin. That's okay. Don't dig in there. Don't try to use any methods to get it out. Your body will push it out. If you want to test the tick, there are ways to send it in and they can test whether it has Lyme disease or not. Given the prevalence, it's safer just to assume it does and proceed that way. And then wash your hands and wash the spot. The note on the right here in the red text says just don't use any of these other methods because you're more likely to get that regurgitation. So if you have a tick on you, given where we live, it's most likely the black-legged deer tick, and those are the ones that carry Lyme disease and other tick-borne illness. If you see any of these other types, they're most likely not going to give you Lyme disease, so you can be less concerned. We do have mostly black-legged ticks, so it's not that helpful, but I just like people to know that there are different types of ticks and they don't all have Lyme disease. Okay, so you did your prevention, you got that tick out as cleanly as you could, but now you're having those symptoms that we talked about earlier. What do? You contact your primary. The standard of care varies between providers. So some people will give you one antibiotic, literally one pill, and say that's enough. ILADS is the International Lyme and something. But they are an organization that does a lot of research on Lyme and hosts these conferences. And they recommend against the use of the single dose doxy because it just builds antibiotic resistance and it does nothing to kill the bacteria. So you do need to take doxy for at least 20 days for an acute bite that you saw the tick, you know it's there, you got the symptoms shortly after. 20 days of doxy. If you're in the chronic Lyme stage, it's going to be much more intensive than that. So find a doctor who's willing to work with you on a long-term plan and not say, oh, here's 2 weeks of doxy, you're good. That is not what the research has shown. There are herbal supplements that have been shown to be really effective. They tend to take much longer to treat, but they're also much more tolerable by people's symptoms or by people's systems. So if you're going the antibiotic route and you're having a lot of side effects and you can't tolerate continuing it, there are other paths as well. And some research shows that the herbal paths are actually more effective, but again, it takes longer and not as easy to have access to for some folks. After you've got your treatment started, contact a Lyme literate massage or a physical therapist so that they can start doing manual lymphatic drainage. That is something I am trained in. Basically, what it's doing is taking all that swelling from those lymph nodes and moving it through your system. When your system is fighting bacteria, and then you also have your antibiotic or herbal treatment fighting that bacteria, you end up with a lot of dead cells for your body to process on top of all your regular dead cells that you're processing as you do your normal functions. And so you can end up with this backup of cells that need to be cleared out of your system, and then that swelling happens because there's a pile up on the highway essentially. So a physical therapist or a massage therapist are able to provide that manual lymphatic drainage. Usually it's just a physical therapist who's going to offer aquatic therapy and progressive exercise. So along with that fatigue and joint pains, people often are not able to do their normal activities. They're not able to stay strong or stay active. And so you get deconditioned and weaker, and a physical therapist can help you kind of get back in a safe way. But it does need to be someone who's familiar with Lyme disease or chronic disease in general, at least, which I'll just say we have quite a few of those at OCC here who are great, not necessarily specifically Lyme disease, but Amy and Michelle are really great with long-term conditions. Just another emphasis that pool exercise is fantastic. So if you have all these symptoms and you're not ready to work with a provider, but you have access to a pool, just doing some swimming, some walking, some floating, the hydrostatic pressure of that water helps move that lymphatic system along and can do wonders for the headache, the fatigue, the brain fog, all those things that can come up with this condition. Just be careful if you do have cardiac disease, because exercise in general, and then with the layer of tick-borne illness on top, can be a problem with that. So I don't even know where we're at. Okay. More information is available at vermontlyme.org. They get all of their information from the CDC, from research papers, from reputable sources, and compile it in an accessible way. They've got a ton of like diagrams and checklists and resources. So I always direct people there. And then, like I mentioned, ILADS is an organization of physicians that compiles information for providers. And these are a list of providers in this area that I have worked with and have had really great success with. So this will be available on YouTube. There is a Lyme vaccine coming, hopefully, for humans. I mentioned that there is already one for dogs. There was one previously, but it is not it's not available anymore because there was low demand. But they're hopefully trying to get one out pretty soon, and they're focused on releasing it in Vermont first, given our high prevalence. All right, I just whizzed through all that. That was a lot of information. What questions do you have?
There's one in the chat too. It says, if your dog gets Lyme disease, is he contagious or can you contract it from them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Typically, no. The only cases of Lyme being transmitted human to human or animal to human are in utero. So if a mother has Lyme disease and then gets pregnant, the baby could also be born with Lyme disease. But I have not seen anything about animal transmission, animal to human transmission.
Sandy.
What are the natural repellents?
That's a good question. There's lemon oil and eucalyptus oil, I know, but there are different blends that people make that are specifically tick formulas. And so it has those two, but then there are usually some other ones as well. And you can get them at like Healthy Living or City Market.
And how do you find these little critters on your dog? They're so small.
Yeah, so you have to use a comb and look through the fur if they have long fur, or if they have short fur, sometimes you can just smooth over them and you'll find a bump.
You feel it?
Yeah, you can feel it usually. And then, like I said, you can use a lint roller to just get whatever you can off of them if they're tolerant to that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, we'll go out in the woods and come back, and sometimes you'll see it right on her skin. I mean, right on her fur, like right off, and you can take them off. And then we'll get inside, like I'll do a pretty thorough check, and then she'll go lay down, and then like 10 minutes later, I'll go look at her again, and there's like another one on her head. So they're tough. And it takes like kind of consistent checking and awareness to keep doing it. Like I've found them sometimes like in the web of her paws, that I never, so my paranoia is like super high because I've spent so much time checking her and they still just kind of keep showing up sometimes like throughout the night. I'll like wake up and she'll have another one like on her head. I'm like, dang, I just checked her like so much. So it is tough, like kind of like separate the hair and kind of like sometimes I'll like go like this, like against the hair too, and just kind of seeing if there's
Hmm.
anything in there. Um,
And they
but
don't seem to bother your dog, scratching
um,
or anything.
not really.
Oh.
And not that I've really noticed, but she'll sometimes, like if she's gotten bitten and it's starting to get larger and I didn't catch it, I mean, I think she'll start to kind of itch that area. But yeah, it's very different here, growing up and you used to go camp, like I never thought about it ever. Camping as a kid or walking in the woods or playing in like never did. And it's gotten more of like a hyper awareness of like how can you still enjoy like the outdoors but
Hmm.
it is a little different. Like I have some nice paths in my backyard that I really don't go into like in the summer because it takes so much time and preparation. Not to deter anything, but there's ways, to protect yourself
Yeah.
with
So long
hair.
sleeves, bug
Yeah.
spray, doing the repellent options around your property, those are all really effective.
Yeah. Yeah, they do like Pest Pro
Hmm.
um is a local spot and they come in and spray like the perimeter of your property and that seems to help quite a bit. Um But what do you see most, Becca? And maybe you mentioned this, but the most kind of symptom that you see of folks coming in, and do they normally know that they have it coming in, or is it kind of like a history that you're taking from them, seeing if they've gotten bit before? Like it leads you to that sometimes.
Yeah, both. So often I have folks come in, well, I'm not treating it so much now, but I would have folks come in specifically for Lyme treatment.
Hmm.
So they're already working with a provider, they've already started their antibiotics or their herbs, and they just need some of that extra support through the lymph drainage or the exercise. And then I've had folks who say, I just don't know, I've been feeling so spacey and I'm tired all the time. And yeah, my elbow hurts and then my wrist hurts and then I don't know. And I say, well, have you been checked? And there have been a few times that people say, oh, okay, and they get checked in and they're positive. So it can go either way,
Hmm.
which is why I think it's so important for people to know about all of the symptoms separately, and then especially if you have many of them together. Because I'm Lyme literate because I've done a lot of studying and conferences, but most providers, it's not one of the things they spend much time on. Like most of the providers I've talked to who are not the Lyme providers say, oh, I don't know, I think we had one lecture on that in med school, and then they forgot about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seemed like within the last few years, like when I've been bitten or so, like it's kind of been a lot of mixed messages that are kind of confusing. They're like, well, how long did you get bit? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like I just saw it. Like I don't know if it's been on for a day or an hour or 2 days. Like I had no idea. So it seemed like the timeline really mattered of
Mhm.
how long it might have been on your skin.
Yep.
And then that kind of led to like the treatment that they would use.
Hmm.
Um, and then, I was kind of getting too of like, well, if you have Lyme, you always have Lyme. Or if you've gotten Lyme, you're done with it, you won't get it again. So there's been kind of like yeah. So what is the
Yeah. So
reality here?
yeah, and Dr. Chesney is fantastic from Anya. Yeah, so once you have Lyme, you can get rid of it. It
Okay.
is a lot of work. It's a spirochete, so the type of bacteria is really good at hiding and changing forms, and you kind of need to attack it throughout its life cycle so that you're attacking it in all its forms and it's not hiding in one form while you're attacking the other form, which is why it needs to be a longer dosage and a little bit more complex treatment than just here's one pill of doxy. Um, and if you are able to fully eradicate it, your body builds some immunity like it does to the flu, but you can still get the flu again the next year. You're maybe a little less likely to get it, or it might be a little less intense, but it's not like one and done like chickenpox.
Okay.
There was a second part of that question. What was it?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, Bruce.
So both my wife and I have had various tick bites over the years,
Mhm.
and our primary care has always given us the doxycycline, and that seems to have worked well. At least we haven't got Lyme disease that we know of. But one
Mhm.
time, Jan got bitten on a Friday. We were going away for the weekend, and she said, "Well, I'll call the doctor on Monday." The doctor said, "It's too late, can't give it now."
Mm.
And what, two,
Yes,
three
ma'am.
weeks later, she got extremely tired. She's never
Mhm.
felt so exhausted in her life. And it turned out to be anaplasmosis.
Mhm.
So when you said that ILADS doesn't recommend the single dose doxycycline, that sort of implies that you just, well, don't do anything and just watch for symptoms, which to
Yeah.
me doesn't sound very appealing at all. Um,
Yeah, so the actual recommendation is if you have a tick bite at all, you should take a prophylactic 20 days of antibiotics. It's not that you should do nothing.
yeah,
Once
I
you're
know.
Yep.
symptomatic, it
Yep.
becomes
So
more
the
than
20
20 days.
days would be a lower dose
Yeah,
uh, daily as opposed to the larger dose one
single. Yeah,
single.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not advising just waiting and seeing.
Yeah.
No,
But it is
that's
saying that the
okay.
one small dose is not, or
Yeah.
one 200 milligram dose
Okay.
is not.
I wasn't clear on whether
Yeah.
that 20-day thing was once you've been diagnosed or have symptoms or
No,
something.
no, that's prophylactic. Like
Prophylactic.
as
Okay.
soon as you know that you've got a tick bite, you should take 20 days of doxy. And then if you continue, or if you develop symptoms or continue to have symptoms, then you go on different regimens.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's never too appealing to take any amount of doxy because it's a general antibiotic. It kills all the good bacteria in the, well, I don't know if it
Right.
kills all of the good bacteria, but it kills a lot of the good bacteria.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about what you would do after a course of doxy to get your normal?
Yeah.
Um,
Gut flora back.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
So yeah, typically, I recommend folks, if they're taking two doxy a day, like a morning and night, then in the middle of the day, you take a probiotic. And if you can, if you're up in the middle of the night anyway, take a probiotic. Don't take it with the doxy because it'll just kill the probiotics. But then you can kind of build your flora as you're killing it. So you're building the good flora, but not building the Lyme disease. Um, and that's kind of the best prevention for that. But yeah, people often need to do a solid dose of antibiotic or of probiotics after they've had that doxy.
Mm.
And actually, that reminded me of Rebecca's other question was the time frame of that tick being attached. So within those first 24 hours, you have a lower chance of getting Lyme disease, and then it's much higher after those first 24 hours. So if you see that tick and you know it's been there less than 24 hours, you're pretty likely to be okay, but there's still a chance. And so it's how risk tolerant are you? Um, Having seen the effects of Lyme that I've seen, I am very low risk tolerant, but some people have had Lyme disease and had antibiotics and lived their life totally fine. And so maybe they're higher risk tolerant. So it's really a personal thing.
Dr. Chesney has some like herbal protocols that she recommends if you suspect that you've been in contact with Lyme, like if you've had a tick bite. Are those also probably pretty good? Like a good
Yeah.
solution for, because I know you
So
mentioned the herbal supplements can be a good. I treated Lyme disease back in 2013 with Dr. Chesney for a year, and we did
yeah,
like the herbal protocol, and I healed really well, but it did take a very long time.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So if you have the um the hubris, I don't know how else to say this,
yeah.
to tolerate a year of treatment and deal with all of
Well,
the
I
things
mean, I'm
that come
talking
with
about like
it.
a tick bite. Like if you just get a tick bite, like she has some
Yeah.
recommendations of like some herbal supplements that you can.
Yeah, I was going to answer both questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you can tolerate that year-long process and you can afford it, because usually it's
Yeah.
not covered by insurance,
Yeah, it's expensive.
it seems to be more effective than antibiotics. And I would say the same about the prophylaxis. So she has on her website a tincture that I can't remember now. You have to take it for a while, but if you get a tick bite, it's these herbs, and it does not destroy your gut flora like the antibiotics do. So if
Yeah.
you have a tick bite and you're not sure how long it was on, and you're a little worried but not really worried,
Yeah.
um, but worried enough to do something about it, then
Yeah.
I think that's a great option. And she sells it on her website, so you can order it and just have it on hand during summer in case something comes up.
One more question, because I think that there's a large number of people in the cancer community on this chat as well. And I'm a 2020 cancer survivor, salivary gland cancer. And I'm just wondering if there's any links between cancer and Lyme disease, because I've had Lyme disease twice and then developed cancer. I mean, I
Interesting.
know it increases inflammation in the body, and
Yeah,
that could
yeah.
contribute, but just
I
wondering if you
don't,
had any insight on that.
yeah, I don't know if there's a connection there. I do know there's a connection between Lyme disease and hypermobility,
Yeah.
um, and Lyme disease and something else that I'm blanking on right now, but I have not heard of the connection between Lyme disease and cancer, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised because they're both autoimmune
Yeah.
conditions.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
What other thoughts are coming to mind? Anything else?
Hmm. These probiotics, are those pills that people take?
Typically they're pills. I think you can also get some powders that you can mix into drinks, but typically pills, yeah. And also available at like Healthy Living or City Market, or if you have a naturopath, they usually have one that they like.
I did learn an interesting fact when I got bit because I didn't, one of the times, I didn't feel it like at all. And then I was told that they actually have, like, when they do bite you, they can release like a numbing.
Yep.
They're so tricky. It's so annoying. They're tiny. You can't see them. They're trying to get inside your skin. And then
Yeah.
they like throw this stuff that you can't even feel when they're biting. So it's like, come on.
Yeah, when you were talking about the dog, whether it bothers her, I was like, probably not, because they have an anesthetic in their saliva.
Yeah. So you can't really feel it until kind of it's really in
Yeah.
there. So you just got to
Yeah,
kind of keep
they're
looking.
nasty things. That's why
Yes.
prevention is the best medicine.
Yeah. And also I learned too, like in the fall, like, yard cleanup is helpful.
Hmm.
Like leaves and getting loose leaves out. I never
Yeah.
was one to do that.
Right.
And
And then you have to say, well, what about the mulching and the benefits for the soil? And
yeah, totally. It can be a whole thing. But yeah, the leaves I was hearing quite a bit about.
yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you, Becca, for your time. I really appreciate this and being able to just share some awareness and ideas amongst each other and information that you might not have thought about, or at least just kind of puts it back into our mind as well as the season's kind of coming along a little bit more. And yeah, food for thought. So thank you,
Yeah.
everybody,
Thank
and
you
then
guys for
we'll
your
have it
time
on our
and great
YouTube channel.
questions.
One last request. Could you put
Yeah.
up the list of names that you had in that one slide?
Yes.
Didn't get a chance to take a screenshot of it.
Here, that's one.
Are you sharing your screen again, Becca? Because I think I took it off.
Oh, it was up on my screen. Let's see. All right, can you see that?
Yes, we'll get that.
Thank you.
Okay, I got it. Don't know if anybody else is trying to get it.
Excellent.
Hello, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Jeff Sikora. I just joined your meeting, just saw your posting this morning, and
Yeah.
I just got a result from a blood test saying I don't have Lyme disease, and I think I do.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
think it depends when you're a bit, but I think in the beginning of the presentation, Becca was mentioning that blood tests might not show positivity too
Right.
soon to the bite. Is that right, Becca?
Yeah, correct. So, depending on when you were bit, the sooner you get the blood test, the less accurate it is actually. And then there are
Yeah.
also several different types of blood tests. So the standard one that people do it, that providers do in their offices typically is the least accurate. There's another one called the company is iGenX, and then they send it to a lab in California, and that's the most effective, but it's also not covered by insurance. And so people usually, at least providers usually, will not recommend that one unless they really need to, if they even know
Right.
about it. But that tends to be the most accurate. So if
Okay.
you were
Yeah.
wanting to say for sure or get more information, you could do that. Or if you're feeling really confident because you have all of the symptoms, it's also okay to treat it
Yes.
not having that positive test.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. I also have kidney disease, so that doesn't help either. So,
Yeah.
but I started treatment yesterday afternoon with doxycycline.
Yeah.
And then the blood test was done through UVM Medical and
Mhm.
came back negative just a little while ago. So,
Mhm.
but I sure don't feel that. I have all the flu symptoms and joints and knees, and just started going into my hips this morning. So, kind of
Yeah.
new.
Yeah.
Sorry to
So,
interrupt. I apologize. So,
oh no, it's great. That's why we're here. Yeah, so I think it's great that you're able to treat even with that negative test and definitely make sure you advocate for yourself and persist if you're feeling those symptoms.
yeah,
I did just put up a slide that shows some other providers who are very well versed in tick-borne illness, and if you're not getting the care you need with your current provider, one of them might be able to help you.
yep, I did see that. I just got a screenshot of that. Excellent.
Great.
Appreciate your help. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Mhm.
All right, thank you all. I hope you enjoy this sunny weekend.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Becca. I really
Thanks.
appreciate your time. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming
Thank you
in.
very much. This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you
Thank
all.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
very
Thank you.
welcome.